a new experience. So this is what we're going to do, okay? And for the folks who are on Zoom, you're invited to be participants, but we're going to be doing this in a particular way. So we're looking for one table to volunteer their statement. Thank you so much. I usually have to go searching, but I'm grateful for you. I'm going to have you come up and write it. Wait, just wait. Well, this group, Sally's group.
Either tell me do or don't.
Just hang in there for just a sec, because I also have to there's more rules to this than just that. So here's the other piece. Here's the thing. The group will share what they came up with. Then everybody gets to say, do we like all of that? But is there something we'd like to change? Is there a word? Is there a phrase? Remember, we need active voices that say specific things that are precise and active oriented, not passive, so that we strive, we hope, we wish upon a star in another universe far, far away. None of that vague kind of language is really what we're looking for. You're looking for language that expresses what is in you as a congregation, okay? Because you live from the inside out. Remember, that's why. It's the why part of this. So we have a very brave group. Normally, I don't get volunteers that fast in this, but I'm quite grateful for you. So would you write your statement now? And here's the next best part. You don't have to explain any of it.
Blueberry scented? I think so. Blue one always was. Or raspberry.
Sally, do you have a higher contrast so that it'll show up in the recording better? Marker.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're gonna write rainbow.
You know if Sean King showed up?
Sam King.
Might be Sam King.
Sam King, yes.
Oh.
Going on the phone, read downstairs.
Thank you. That's okay. So, okay, yeah, good. I'm going to read this. Okay. I wasn't going to say, oh, now you can all just, no. We embrace Jesus's invitation to share God's love, mercy, and justice with our community. So, that is their statement from that table. Is there any group that wants to make a change to that? This is the part of the thing I just want to also mention, where we start letting go of our egos a little bit, okay? Because we need to do this as a community. So, well,
we'd like to, with not just with our community, with God's creation. Share God's love, mercy, and justice with the world, not with just our community.
Yeah, I was.
Okay,
Sorry.
someone needs to come up and put that in. So we. Is it with our? Or with the? Okay, I'm just gonna leave it with, I'll add world. And then we'll go from there. Okay. So now this reads, we embrace Jesus. I've been talking way too long today. We embrace Jesus's invitation to share God's love, mercy, and justice with our world. So do other groups want to add, subtract, change?
Hold on.
Wait for the mic, because we are recording this, by the way. And so we're going to also ask the folks here on. Yeah, that would be good.
So you're not wanting to hear every tables, but you're wanting us to massage the first one.
Yeah, only because it gives us something to work from, and then we can rework it more thoroughly. This is going to get really messy in a bit, and that's fine, because that's how we get through coming up with one that we can all agree on. So that you can change, Elaine, you can change words, pieces, parts, okay? And then we'll come back and it'll be a whole new thing. But we use one because we need a starting place.
Think in the chat. You probably can't see from there to it. Scroll down in the chat.
Read off.
Oh.
So the very top part, I'll read through Ed's commentary, which is what he is saying he put in the chat. I think these are descriptors of our church: spiritually curious, theologically progressive, Christianity for a changing world, Christianity of today's world perplexing questions, finding faith in a changing world, networking for the spiritually curious, where you find networking for the spiritually curious. I think that's what we had on there. I put something in the chat that is intended to feed your next part of the agenda. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. So do other groups want to come and add their pieces and parts to this? So come on up. Well, however much you're going to, here, before you do that, if you're going to line the whole things out, write new here. It's, yeah,
So can I put an asterisk here then?
okay. So what I'm hearing from this group, what they wanted to do was to add, am I correct? Okay. If I'm wrong, it's okay to say, no, you didn't get it. Okay. We embrace Jesus's invitation to share God's all-inclusive love, mercy, and justice with our world. Okay, they get that right? Okay. What else, what other groups want to do?
We took a sort of different approach. Could we
Okay,
share our-
yeah, yeah. That's what this time is for.
Follow them to ChatGPT and have it give us.
Okay. So what we have is another opportunity. Okay? So what this group said, coming down here, is growing together. We are here to love our neighbors, work for justice as we walk humbly with God.
Based on the same verse that we were.
Echoes of Micah.
Echoes a lot. Yeah, echoes of Micah, right? Sure, I can. Growing together, we are here to love our neighbors, work for justice as we walk humbly with God.
That has a lot more action to it. And maybe you could put all inclusive just before the word justice.
Down here? Am I correct?
Mhm.
Okay, that's going to require, we move to page 2, which means I need someone to come back up here and write.
What do you need?
The
We're-
blue is actually easier to see on the
Yeah,
screen.
I think that's true. Okay,
Blue's easier to see.
Okay,
okay. So what's he doing?
they wanted to write this one.
That one?
Yeah, and then before you get to justice,
Oh, yeah.
write all inclusive
Growing together.
together. We are
Here. To love our neighbors.
love our neighbors. Work for all inclusive justice.
As we walk.
Humbly with God. Okay?
That- sure.
Yeah, okay. So I'm trying not to be in the way. So can we, do you want me to read this? For those all the way in the back? Okay? Yeah, growing together, we are here to love our neighbors, work for all inclusive justice as we walk humbly with God.
All inclusive is redundant. I think it's
Mm.
nice on that side.
Okay, we have one that would,
Take it.
we'd like to leave, to take it off. Are there more? Okay, I'm not hearing anything to say no, so let's try without. Or do we want to substitute a different word?
Or we could say if we put, rather than all inclusive, but work for justice for all? And walk-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that work?
Uh-huh.
Would that work for y'all?
Yes.
Yep, for you, everyone who, okay.
They need the word and before the word work.
We probably need something there, but I wasn't being a grammarian at this point.
Love our neighbors
And work
Yeah.
for God, justice for all. I never put correct. That comes at the end when we're cleaning it up.
Ours is a little different because it offers how we plan to work for justice and walk humbly with God. It has more by doing this sort of things.
Yeah. Where does how come in the circles? It comes outside of why, right? It's what. So the why is really what we're getting at here. How you're going to do that, you'll work on. And that really isn't for here. This is strictly, what is it you firmly believe as a congregation is your identity, is your reason for existence. How you do that is going to come afterwards because that's going to flow to what are you going to do? Does that make sense? Okay. And I mean, I get,
Yeah, let's, yeah.
sure.
We are justice-loving seekers of Christ, offering welcome, enlightenment, and refuge through worship, music, arts, and education.
You know, it's maybe not
And you write that.
part of the microphone plan, but could we possibly?
Would it be possible to hear everyone's statement or would that ruin?
No, I don't, well, it doesn't, we can.
Mhm.
But then my concern is, and so we'll do it, we'll glad to listen. We've got at least two groups, part of a third, right? So if you want to all do that, that's fine. But at some point, you're all going to have to agree. And you got to do it today. Because if we don't do it today, it will not get done. I can tell you that. So I'm happy to do that. I just want to make sure that we're attentive to understand we're going to get parts and pieces from everybody.
So I think that from what Nancy shared and what Sally shared earlier is having Christ or Jesus, gotta get like Jesus back in the mix here. Because I think, I mean, for us, it was really important that the why that we're doing this is because we're trying to follow Jesus' example or accept his invitation or accept the invitation. So I wonder if, I mean, I think, because I think that was something that came through in what yours said. So I don't know where to put it, but can that be a suggested?
Oh,
addendum somewhere?
yeah, we can. Let's take a second though, because we were asked if we would do this and I said, sure, we can do this. So would you read yours again? Whose statement have we not heard? Okay. So Nancy, would you do yours again? Did we have Mike?
Oh, yeah.
And we're not going to write these because otherwise we'll just get too many words and we won't be able. So let's listen. Please. Okay.
Turn it on, Nancy.
You're muted.
It's like in the early church, they didn't have stuff written down, they just listened. Okay.
Yeah.
We are justice-loving seekers of Christ, offering welcome, enlightenment, and refuge. And then I almost think take the last part out. Through worship, music, arts, and education. I think for us, the word refuge was the really resonant word in this one.
We could add to provide refuge
It's your home.
Okay, there's this group of there. Group here on the.
I don't want
Fight over.
I know. I don't like.
My writing.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, here was ours. We are a diverse community of bold spiritual seekers committed to loving and serving our neighbors with energy, intelligence, imagination, and love.
We are followers of the inclusive love and teachings of Jesus, inspired to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God.
No, we did already went. Started. With the first one.
We are here to love our
Here-
neighbors.
They can't hear you.
Sorry, we are here to love our neighbors, work for, work for justice, and walk humbly with God.
Basically had what we had.
But with, yeah, but just with the commas in the right place, I'm a bug on that.
That's okay. Thank you. So, having heard the difference, each of your groups
Melt it in or give us something else to think about. And it's up to all of you. Then we continue working with it. You can bring some of those ideas back. But what I'm trying to get at, are there things you would like to say that's different than what's here now? And I know there is, because I've heard there is. So now comes the brave part about standing up and making changes, adding to, or offering something different. Okay?
I like this one, but we are here to. People online can't hear you.
Go on, Sally.
This one is fine, except that we are here to love. It doesn't feel as active as I would like it to be. It feels a little more in the passive. I guess growing together is maybe supposed to be active, but that's just a clause. You could say, growing together, we love our neighbors, and work for justice and walk humbly with God. Or we grow together to love our neighbor. But we are here to kind of makes it more passive is my thinking.
So. I like Marion.
If I'm correct, and feel free to tell me I'm not. If I'm correct, what you'd like to say is growing together, we,
Love our neighbor.
yeah, cross out all that. We love our neighbors and work,
No, we got rid of.
oh, we got the,
Love our
okay,
neighbors, work for justice for all, and walk
humbly with God. So if you would like to add something, change something, come on down. Mike? It's on.
I guess am I on? Yeah. Okay, I'm leaning on this. How about adding this, work for justice for all, protect and nurture God's creation and walk humbly with God.
Now we have God in there twice, but no.
Oh, okay, protect and nurture all creation. Thanks, thanks, Dave. Protect and nurture all creation as, or perhaps as we walk humbly with God. That's sort of an add-on.
Okay, no one's gonna read this. So I'm gonna have you rewrite this.
Hold on. Do we still have growing together or not?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So growing together.
Seekers of Christ.
Well, wait. I can hear one person speaking and we're trying to get down what we have currently.
Oh, okay.
So it would be really helpful if we can work a little together. I just can't process everything.
Growing together, we love our neighbors.
We love our neighbors, comma, work for justice for all, comma, protect and nurture all creation. And I know we have as we walk, but we're not going to do it that. Walking
Humbly with God.
humbly with God. Is that okay? Okay.
Love our neighbors.
Oh, I'm
work
sorry.
For justice for all.
Yeah, I was already moving on here.
Protect and nurture.
Protect and nurture all creation. Comma. Walking humbly with God. Okay, so that's what we have currently. This is the next version. This is the 3.0 version. Yeah, I'm going to move. So it's growing together. We love our neighbors, work for justice for all, protect and nurture all creation, walking humbly with God. Well, we're part of creation. Yeah. David? Nancy? Nancy, you had something?
I wanted to add growing together as seekers of Christ. We love our neighbors, work for justice and refuge for all, protect and nurture all creation, and walk humbly with God.
Okay. Nan, would you come up and show her where you want to put things?
I got that part, right?
Wait a minute. Oh, I left my paper. Ooh.
Seekers of Christ.
Yeah. Growing together as seekers of Christ, or as seekers of Christ growing together.
Jesus rather than Christ? No.
Okay. That's fine.
Justice and refuge. right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
This is nice. I like it.
So, okay, so I'm going to try and read this. Okay.
Who am I giving it to?
Growing together as seekers of Jesus, we love our neighbors, work for justice and refuge for all, protect and nurture all creation, walking humbly with God.
That's
Well, okay. Who has the mic?
That would be me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to Sorry, just trying to work it out because I wanted to put, that we live out the call of Jesus to love one another, welcome difference. And then the rest of it is pretty similar. So I put living out the call of Jesus, a community that lives out the call of Jesus too, and then you can put what you have there.
Still want growing together?
Excuse me?
Still want growing together?
No. I actually have guided by God's Spirit. We live out the call of Jesus to love one another, but the way it's put there is fine.
Well, there were 3 other people over here who had their hands up too.
And then yeah.
I did have my hand up, but we're sort of getting there anyway. The phrase we suggested was as followers of the inclusive love and teachings of Jesus.
But they didn't want inclusive.
No, that's fine. It's not that it's bad.
It was in a different place,
Oh.
but we thought that inclusive love was important.
Okay, so where do we want to put all these changes?
Or which ones do we want? Oh, where for this would be at the beginning. Growing together as followers of the inclusive love and teachings of Jesus.
I recognize that this is not the point of the exercise, but one of the things that I'm like having kind of a visceral reaction to in this process is like, we are making this so complex. So I just shared with John, one of my favorite websites is called Hemingway app. And you put a text in there and it tells you what grade level it's at. The average American understands content at about a 9th grade level. And so far we're at 14th grade. So I'm wondering, I guess what I'm just trying to suggest, I mean, which I don't know what 14th grade is, but I guess what I'm trying to suggest is I think that there's a lot of core ideas here that where we're differing on the verbosity of the language being used, there's core tenets here that we could be a lot more simple and actionable about and create something that still speaks to us, but also has relevance to the broader world. So I'm wondering if instead of like wordsmithing, if there's a way of like distilling some of these
Yeah.
words down.
So can you show us how you think you might want to do that?
I'm not sure how to do it because I mean, I think that some of the core ideas that have come out of these are very simple, but every time we add, I mean, at the end of the day, I see love, justice, protect, nurture. I don't really know what growing together means. Sounds like growing old together. I'm not sure what walking humbly actually means like in an action word, but I guess so I don't know what the right words are. That's what I'm hoping we can do as a group. But if there's a way to kind of distill these into the core umbrella terminologies, that would be helpful.
The 14th verse is 14th grade. Is it because there's so many words, or are we using 2 big words?
Both. Big words,
Both.
lots of phrases.
It's not elevator size. Yeah.
Right.
No. Because after this, I'm going to ask, once you finally get to it, someone has to be brave enough to stand up, turn around, away from the board and say it. So you got to be able to remember it. So it's a little like poetry with rhythm and cadence.
Actually, I don't, the growing together part confuses me, so I somehow would like to get rid of that. And Grania, I like the idea about the call of Jesus. And as Callie said, having Jesus in there is necessary to be a Christian church, even though we're all have different concepts of God. This is Jesus' idea of God. And I think if we can agree that that's where we start, it'd be nice to put it in there.
One other thing that our group talked about, and again, this is my southern side saying, because in the South we say it's like, you know, you go to a sermon and the preacher's like, brothers and sisters, I got 3 things to tell you today. Like, people remember things best in groups of 3. So if there's a way to possibly like distill, I mean, like so love, working for justice, caring for creation, like whatever those things are, if there's maybe one suggestion would be to say if there's a way to get it into 3, it has a nice memorability to it.
Okay.
Let me say something too, that there are words up there that I think draw us in. So it might be good if we just said, if we explained or decided what words we really want to keep. You know, what words up there are really important to who we are and what we are doing in this congregation. I think you're right. There's so much, but we need to choose.
Yeah.
So one suggestion would be to replace growing together with following the call of Jesus.
Or can we do it, would this be okay? Yeah, and you tell me yes or no. Because I'm kind of listening, so I'm distilling a little bit. We follow Jesus, or we follow Jesus's call to love our neighbor, to care for creation, and work for justice for every person.
All right. Why we're paying it.
Okay, I just used GPT.
Oh, no, here we go.
I took that and I said, simplify that statement. And here's what GPT said. As we grow in Christ, we love our neighbors, seek justice, care for creation, and walk humbly with God. Okay.
The as parts get you into passive voice. No.
As we grow in Christ, we love our neighbors, seek justice, care for creation.
We follow. It's an active verb. Sure. Oh, that's a good question. I do this off the top of my head. It'll be in the recording somewhere. No, we can't. So it's like we follow Jesus's call to love our neighbor, to care for creation, and to work for justice for every person. Oh, it's inclusive. I mean, if you say creation, that's is everything. So it's, yeah. But and here's where the poetics get into it. It's easy to remember care for creation. Both begin with C's. You can hear the pattern speech. Anyway, so that's just me.
It was care for creation with the second one, Pat.
Yeah, we're at 3rd grade level, so we're good.
Yeah, to love our neighbor. Whoa. Work for justice for every person. And if you're going to put it in this fashion, and protect and care for creation. So can we do that? Or you want? Yeah.
Just for the animals.
Yeah. That's yours. I gave you just. Yeah.
I really liked the love our neighbor, care for creation, and work for justice for every person. Because if you care for creation, that covers all of creation. I just like the way you put it in that order. Because justice for every person at the end just feels, again, we're back to that feeling. It's a feeling of, it has a nice point to the end of it. Work for justice for every person.
I knew. And the reason person is used is that becomes an emphasis, not people, not, person.
Okay,
It's almost as I've done this for a while. So we follow Jesus's call to love our neighbors, care for creation, and work for justice for every person. That's what's currently there.
okay.
We do have neighbors, yes. It has been pluraled. Yeah.
Okay, lots of people, lots of lots of unchurched people are turned off by too much religious talk. I would suggest starting with we love our neighbors, etc., and putting at the end, following Jesus's call. To do that, to invite people in and not immediately focus on Jesus. Oh, there's more of that God talk. I'll forget it. Focus on the other and then putting at the end, following Jesus's call.
I don't. Okay. I'm not gonna.
They came to, you could say, loving our neighbors, caring for creation, and working for justice for every person as followers of Jesus.
Mhm.
Yeah, but Jesus at the beginning, it's going to turn people off more than if you have it.
Loving our neighbors, caring for creation, and working for justice for every person as seekers.
Is how we
Followers.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, just for following Jesus' call, I had lives out the call of Jesus, and then the rest of it's pretty much the same. We live out the call of Jesus to love our neighbor, and the reason for that is I just think it's more active, and more, puts it, it's not only in our lives, but in following him. So I don't know.
Could we do this? Could we say, we live Jesus's call
Yeah,
to
that sounds
love our
good.
neighbors,
Right.
and I've lost in the rest of
I
it,
like
but
that.
care for creation. So we live Jesus's call.
Correct. Yeah, that's
So
good.
just
That works and
responsive
it's
to-
simpler. Okay. And the other thing I had was, one of the things about our congregation is that we welcome difference. And I wanted to put that in somewhere, but we live Jesus' call to love our neighbor, care for creation, and work for justice for every person. And I'm not sure how to put that in, but that's also the inclusiveness that Peg was talking about.
Maybe
so.
Sally has her hand up first.
And I don't want to add to make it much longer.
I kind of think that it's already there. I mean, I know we like to be really specific, but if you say, we love our neighbor,
Yeah.
your neighbor is everybody.
Yeah.
You care for creation,
that's all of the things around you, and you work for justice for every person, that's inclusive. That's inclusivity at its core it's kind of like saying, tell me you're inclusive without saying, using the word inclusive.
Showing without telling.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it works.
How about all neighbors?
Yeah.
Of all of our neighbors.
Well, what neighbors are you
Our
on
Well, neighbor is neighbor.
Are you now choosing?
All
I think that's.
No, no.
All of our neighbors?
All.
Our neighbors. Not our. All our neighbors. Exactly.
Yeah, are you gonna say something?
Yeah, I did have.
All hour.
All our.
Yeah, and I do have a guy in my neighborhood who has Trump flags. So he
You need
has
to go
flagpole
111.
and Trump flags on it. So maybe we don't want all.
Got it, girl.
Well, that's what we're trying to live into. We're not there yet.
Maybe it's lived into Jesus' call.
There.
Really? I walk my dog placidly past it.
I just had one thing here. As I'm reading this right now, I'm thinking this is what any church could strive for. And I wonder if some words that I hate are maybe buzzwords, indication, code words of our identity as a diverse community of spiritual seekers or progressive spiritual seekers, or, something along those lines that says we're different from the church that says they are Bible-based or follow, is there a way to say that, we've got Jesus in there, but it's not your grandma's Jesus, or, something for people, because I think we hope to attract the non-churched, perhaps. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Let's say radical.
Yeah.
Let's put it there.
And I think seek and diverse somehow, I don't know, but because we don't all have the same ideas about God or Jesus, which has been a stumbling block.
I'm really troubled by the fact that there's no mention of God. I'd like that in there somehow. I think we should have Jesus, we should have God.
Yeah, but if you say God's creation, then people are gonna think we're creationists. Oh.
That's why we have a Trinity.
It is, I know. The more people you have, the more complex. I,
God's justice.
As if we're the experts on what that is.
Well, you,
Oh, yeah.
God's
What-
You got the microphone, go.
Okay, I was going to suggest a possible alternate phrasing, instead of to love all neighbors, to love without exception.
To live into.
Like live into.
We live into Jesus.
We're
Yes,
working on it.
somebody behind us said, we live into Jesus' radical call to love. Or does it matter? Because we don't live Jesus's.
I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I think then we'd have to say seek to, we seek to live in.
No.
When I see radical, is it Christian nationals or extreme right? What will that attract them? Is that what we want?
I don't think they do any of those other things.
No, but,
That's a good point, though.
but the word radical might turn somebody away.
Well, somebody says bold instead of radical. You like bold better?
No.
No.
Sorry, I got shut down.
Yeah.
Well. Oh, inclusive call? Did I hear you say, Marie?
I don't know, at one point, we said Jesus' inclusive call to love.
All our neighbors? I think it should be all our neighbors.
Or
Or just our neighbors.
yeah.
I like inclusive rather than radical. Put in there somewhere, just 2 cents. I like radical, but it could be misinterpreted. I think that's true.
All our neighbors. I work for God's justice for every person.
Yeah.
Is it-
Yeah. Pat?
I just have a question. Is inclusive and all redundant?
Yeah. It is.
Pat, this is Ed. I don't know
I
whether
don't think we need all, but
Don't-
Love our neighbors, care for creation, and work for God's justice for every person. It's not an inclusive of all. It's all inclusive.
He needs to recognize Ed.
Oh.
Okay. Just say-
I think Ed has something to offer.
Yeah, I hear a lot of voices, so I didn't want to interrupt. But I wanted to get a little clarity. Are we talking to people outside of our church, or are we trying to clarify for ourselves who we are?
Here's the answer. And thank you for the question. And we sometimes forget that there are other people who are in the room, but not geographically in the room. So, and this really is for the congregation identity, for understanding who you are. And if it doesn't speak to you, then it's not yours.
Fair enough.
It may be somebody's, but it's not yours. So this is for you. And then you live from this inside outward. And what you do should give visibility to who you are.
Yes, I think
That make
in
sense?
talking to I heard two people that sort of connected with what my thinking was, and I think one was Callie, but I couldn't see her, so I don't know. And I think the other was Lee. If we're talking to people who are not a part of our church, then we have to differentiate ourselves in some way. And the words we use there will likely be different than what we know deep in ourselves is for us as a congregation. And I wanted to just clarify that. I think if you had seen as examples of the way I was thinking of we might position ourselves to the outside world, that's what was in my chat. I see the chat is kind of, I think some of them you have to read 2 lines and the others are sometimes all on 1 line. But I'm not asking to adapt to any of that. I just wanted to clarify that there will be something different when we talk to people outside ourselves.
I think I heard somebody say that what is that we're doing here could be said by almost any, certainly Presbyterian church and probably any Protestant church that is concerned about the world today. And I do think it's good to clarify that for ourselves. But I do think that when we start to talk to the outside world, it'll be a little different. And I think the pastor said that some people might get turned off with Jesus language. I think that's true. But that's a whole nother discussion. So let me leave it at that.
Yeah, you want to remember, this is for you to live. This is who you are. It's not a marketing slogan to get more people to come to church.
That's very helpful.
And it is not a sentence designed to make everyone feel good. It's designed to tell people who you are. Your why. Okay? And once you then make that visible by actively doing things, someone may come up to you and say, as they did to some youth that I took on a mission work camp, why are you doing this? The reason we're doing this is because we are, and then whatever your statement ends up being. So that's why it's really clear to understand this is not a marketing thing. Okay, we're not doing fundraising. This is for you, for your heart. What is it who you are? And this isn't going to necessarily, someone who doesn't like God language may have a problem, but they might not. But that's part of the conversation you would have. But you have to have something you're willing to live out with all of your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. And if it ain't this, then you got to get it to the point where it is. But it's got to be true for you, not for the church down the street. Because they have their thing. David?
I think we're getting close. Thank you, Carson. We live into Jesus' call, inclusive call to love every person, care for creation, and work for God's justice. Period. I think that the putting in our neighbor is kind of church talk, whereas every person is a little more, I think, it's simple. There you go.
And then work for God's justice, take out for every person there. This is where you gotta love it.
Jesus' inclusive call to love every person, care for creation, and work for God's justice.
Do we need inclusive then? Is that redundant?
I like that.
Identity.
Can we pick some words that'll get us put on the list?
Yeah, we talked about that. Into is redundant. No. I think it's more powerful to live Jesus' call, not live in. Yeah, right. Maybe I'll get there.
But I'm not there.
It's aspirational. Don't you want to be aspirational? You want to be doing this?
I don't know if I'm doing this.
Go ahead.
I'd like, I'd just like to add, we are inspired to live Jesus's call. I have to be inspired.
What's an inclusive call? What makes the call inclusive?
Jesus is being inclusive.
Well, basically, we've got every person.
Possessive, so Jesus is.
So do we need it first?
I don't think it hurts to reiterate that. It adds emphasis. We live Jesus's inclusive call to love every person. We can take care for all of creation and work for God's justice.
Or is it God's
For all,
creation?
I mean, you could just keep.
The redundancy helps the third grader.
Among us. Which we all were at one
Oh, we
point.
passed 30.
Still are.
Hopefully there will some be in the church.
Lee, you're gonna have to wedge yourself in there, or you're not gonna get in.
I've just been thinking about what we're doing here today, and one observation about our community is that we are all passionately different. And so many churches, I feel like, kind of brand themselves on how everyone can come and be this together or do that together and believe the same thing. This is the first church I've served where not everyone really believes the same thing, and we still strive to get along. And I think that's really special somehow. And I don't know if we can indicate that concisely, but.
I was thinking maybe we should add, continue to discern the meaning of the gospel. Because it may be a definitive statement, but it's going to, our beliefs change over time, you know. And if we want to get other people in, some people, you know, the people that have different beliefs aren't necessarily should not be unwelcome, you know. I mean, some people come to church, they want their sins forgiven, you know, you know, Scalia, when he was arguing about religious differences, you know, he said, you know, low law enforcement, I don't know what that means, you know. And for me, some of this stuff, I just don't know what it means, you know. So that's all.
Steve, that's nice. How about the last phrase, and discern our work for God's justice? Because it's I think it's you know, we're struggling and stumbling in the right direction, and discern our work.
I think that will get the diversity in there
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Well, that's my a lot of people, no.
Oh. I think into does give it that aspirational feel, as opposed to. It's not.
Unless you put down strive.
Pardon?
No, that wouldn't work. It's off right now. Deciding whether it was.
I think we're getting back to the complications. And, you know, what I think Ed was talking about is, okay, it's the how. How do we do, what's the differentiator between downtown church versus church XYZ? And it's the how that really comes from this. And, you know, somebody says, okay, what do you all do? Well, we're doing this, which is really different from, you know, church X and church Y. But I think that what we would do, the how really can follow from this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not there yet, right?
Yeah, and that really is how it's supposed to work.
I really like that word discern because it brings back sort of the growing together idea, you know, that we're learning and.
Different, not necessarily all, yep, no diversity.
Where was that gonna go? Or is that?
Yeah.
Could we discern our work, we discern our work for Jesus's call to love our neighbor, care for all creation, and work for justice. The discern how to work for justice feels wishy-washy. Discern our work for justice feels wishy-washy, like we're not working for justice. We're just discerning what that should be. I mean, I like the more powerful language.
We discern Jesus' call.
Yeah, something like that. I think that's what I was going for. Up higher. We discern Jesus' call to love our neighbor. The very beginning. We discern Jesus' call to love our neighbor. Inclusive call to love our neighbor. Care for all creation and work for justice. I still like and work for justice for every person, but.
Well, I also do really appreciate what Lee was sharing, and I'm not sure, and I think that this debate about discern probably echoes that to some extent, because some feel I'm in a discerning process, and some people may feel I'm in an action process. But I do wonder about, is there a way of capturing that sort of like multitude of those here in that, like we welcome don't write this. This is very wordy. But it's sort of like we welcome everyone at whatever point they're at to do this with us. I don't know the one word way to say that, but I think that kind of gets at it.
We are a welcoming and diverse church who lives Jesus's inclusive call. I'm not sure.
This is identity.
This is about identity, yeah.
I know. Yeah, this is identity though, not trying to sell us to other people,
Yeah.
so.
Do we want to say that? We want that in there?
Well, if, discern is also, can be a verb. So we could say we are discerning Jesus' call to love. I mean, if you want to have that word, we are doing it. I'm saying we're in a process. Discerning is a process.
R is an.
Well, how about this? Just for fun. We are discerning and living into Jesus's inclusive call to love every person, care for creation, and work for God's justice.
No, I'm not happy. Much simpler.
Well, I would do
Yeah, but I'm on the same track. Just brief.
Pat, what about instead of our discern, what if we just say we discern and live into?
We discern and live into Jesus' inclusive call. Yeah, the active trust.
I think we need to. Yeah.
We're on to another page again.
We all agree on we.
Hi. Yeah, I don't like that, too wordy. I got a much simpler one. It's too wordy. No, I'm not gonna I'm simplifying it. This is way too wordy.
It is.
Yeah, no, I was gonna just fix the. Can I, now? Pat, I was going to suggest that you just leave it the same, except at the end where it says, work for justice, or if you could just hold that. Okay, yeah. And you use the word discern and act for God's justice. And that was the only I know you do. I don't like it, but that's my opinion.
Carol had a good suggestion with inspire.
Well, I think the whole thing is too wordy now.
I think it's gotten better. I like how it means quick work to understand what Jesus is. So trying to say to us.
Wouldn't it be later like?
And live it. That's a lot.
The one thing,
Oh, wow.
the one thing about the word discern is that it starts with dis. And when you say we discern and live, it sounds like a downer right away. Well, what if you say we are working and living to, or, something that Grania just said, instead we're acting to live into we are acting to live into Jesus's inclusive call. We are acting to live into Jesus's inclusive call. We seek to live into Jesus's.
Try Carol's suggestion. We are inspired to live into Jesus.
Inspired. We are inspired to aspire. Okay. We are aspired.
Inspired to
We
live.
aspire to live.
We are.
No, inspired. Inspired, not aspire.
Well,
We are inspired.
We aspire.
Yeah, AS.
I think.
Yeah.
I think the active is we aspire versus
Yes.
inactively
Yeah.
we are inspired.
Yeah.
Well, the inspired
Aspired.
means we're getting inspired by Jesus, not us. We don't aspire, but it's two different meanings.
Yeah.
So who wants what? I want to aspire. Who wants to inspire and who wants to aspire? We both take a vote.
I just think that less,
No. Raise your hand if you want inspired. Inspired to live. We are inspired.
so Pat,
Inspired.
Pat,
Active. We inspire, not our act. You can't inspire to do something that's not.
Pat, I just wanted to say that less is more. We keep putting these little adjectives in there and I just like the way it is. We live into Jesus inclusive. I mean, if everybody would agree, we just,
In this church.
we just don't need more and more and more. It seems almost perfect. Unless somebody wants to change it. I like it.
Now we're doing it.
Oh, Mary, Mary.
Depending on what comes up, I will second Marie. Speaking about who we are. It's not a market. I would like to second Marie. Simpler is better, shorter word is better. And fewer adjectives are better.
So here then becomes the question, are you all happy as you can possibly be? Which I know in the day and age in which we live, there's all kinds of, but having all of those relativity things in there, are you okay? And does this feel like who you are? We live into Jesus's inclusive call to love every person, care for creation, and work for God's justice. Does that work for y'all? Good, yes? Shake heads, yes? Yes, make sounds so I know that there's an assent to this. Because I could be just, shouting into the wilderness here. Okay, so we're going to leave this here. We are already 20 minutes past the time of ending, and I know I got the watch. I know someone was pointing out how long it was, but I think it was worthwhile getting this to this point that makes it usable. Now, so what? You got this, and now what? Well, the now what is my suggestion, and it is just a suggestion. Y'all will do whatever you're going to do. Because this was the end of my thing with my part with you now. If you want me to do anything more, we can talk about that. But at this point, ooh, a dog, puppy. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's like babies, you know. So here's the thing. What my suggestion would be is I would suggest that session create a task force of people who represent a cross-section of the congregation. And then what they do is they take this and they look at all the ministries that you are doing, both within the church and then into the community. Everything. And they say, do those reflect this? And the choices they say are no, in which case you stop doing them. Stop giving your time, your energy, your money to things that don't reflect who you are, that don't tell the people you're in ministry with who you are. Just stop it. Because you're not working, you're not walking the talk, as they used to say, right? You're not living from the inside out if you're doing that. So, and if they do, and if there are ministries that do, then my recommendation is to expand them. Do more. Because you've already freed yourself up from the things that don't. So you have more time, more energy, more resources to put in that which does. And I would go there with this in the aftermath. And they would come back to the congregation and explain, these are the things we think do not fit who we say we are. These are the things that do. We don't then, the congregation then gets to hear that, right? The other parts of this is just this. You can't take those things that don't reflect it and try to shoehorn them in through justification and self-deception. Because I've watched congregations do that. And it's not helpful. Either they do or they don't. If they don't, that's fine. You're not all things to all people, right? There are things that you would do because this is who you are. That's what you should be doing. Okay?
Is there any prioritization of what we match? Should that group be coming back that says, we only have so many resources, and they're not saying this, but in their mind's eye, kind of rank them or nothing?
No,
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, my simple statement, this at this point is either it does or it doesn't. If it doesn't, I don't care what it is. It may be a totally lovely thing to do. But if it's not reflective in telling people who you are, why would you spend resources on something that doesn't reflect who you say you are, as opposed to expanding those things that do? And I understand we do like to rank things, you know, the top 10 CDs from 1975 that no one listens to anymore, by the way. So anyway, we tend to do that. Don't do that. Don't give in to that. And just, it either does or it doesn't. If it doesn't, we don't care about it.
So what guidance do you have for churches as they're discerning all this if they say all of this is who we are?
Then you got, well, I will just say my experiences with churches that say that to me, when I go through that, I can pick out about half that don't. Everything you're doing may touch upon it, but it may not as well. And so you really have to discern. You really have to look at it and be critical. And we can't be so in love with something that we won't let it go because it's no longer functioning. you know? It's like the story of tradition and the young woman who was getting ready to cook her first Easter ham. And her mother said to her, well, you got to cut off both ends of the ham. And she said, why? Well, and her mother came up with some explanation. She said, and the guy, that doesn't make sense. And she said, well, then go ask your grandmother. So she went to her grandmother and asked her. And her grandmother said a bunch of other things that didn't make any sense. She said, go see to your great grandmother. So she went and talked to her great grandmother and said, why do we cut off both ends of the ham? And her great grandmother said, because it didn't fit in the pan. There are some things that don't work anymore. Stop doing them. Only because you need to make sure you're using the resources that you have, both human, money, whatever, and you want to use it for the best possible way. If there are ministries that you're doing that you like, is there somebody else who's already doing it as well? And can you be supportive of them doing that instead of you doing that as well? Okay? So sometimes you'll do that. And that's what I've told congregations in the past. You know, take a look critically and be really clear. It either does or it doesn't. And if it kind of does, but you kind of like it, and it does work, and it's not resource intensive, maybe reimagining it is an example, but I rarely say that. Because people will keep doing things like church bazaars that they hate because they've always done it this way before. You know? So that's the other part to that. And that's the hard part. Because there are things that people will feel, yes, but we've done that all. Yes, that's lovely, nice. It doesn't say who you are, doesn't speak to this. And that's hard to do. And people will feel that uncomfortableness. But it's okay to be uncomfortable if you feel like you're moving in a solid direction. The other thing that you do with this is on your website. It's on the front of your church bulletin this Sunday, if possible, or it's stated someplace. Well, next Sunday, but someone has to stand up in church on Sunday and say, this is who we are. And it has to go on your website, it has to go everywhere. It ought to come up in every conversation. It ought to come up in sermon. It ought to come up in a lot of different ways. In other words, it has to be everywhere. And the reason why it needs to be everywhere is so that everybody learns it and can say it without having to look at it. Okay? That's how you know it has to come like breath to you, like breathing. And that really is the next piece to this, and as well as the other piece. So is there anybody who would like to stand up now and give that a whirl? You just have to stand up, turn around, and say it out, and I'll give you a mic. Well, no, you got to turn around and say it.
I know. Can I use your mic?
Oh, absolutely.
I wrote it down.
Oh. Don't read it. No, you can't read it from your paper. You have to
Oh, dear.
from memory.
Can I turn my mirror around? Oh, dear, this is tricky.
Well, go ahead, give it a whirl.
We live into Jesus's inclusive call to love every person, to care for creation, and to work for God's justice.
Okay. Thank you for breaking the ice. Now we need someone to stand up without paper, with only the mic turned away and speaking it. No. How does that even happen? Okay, wait a second. You need a mic, because you got to turn away from everybody, so you'll need to.
So we live into Jesus' all-inclusive call to love every person, care for creation, and work for or towards, that was an idea I had, God's justice.
But eventually you all have to, not only you, but everybody else in the congregation has to know this. Ah. So, yeah. So those are the next steps for this that you need to do. And they're as critical as this is. Okay? And that gives you a direction to move toward and move into. Because if it's not this, that's not what you're going to do. It's not what you're about. Okay? So I'd like to thank you. I know we're going to have, there's the two songs? And we need somebody who actually can sing, so it won't be me. But it will be Lee.
Do you want me to actually use? Oh, you've got, is this both of them or?
Oh, this is one.
This is one. This is. I'll just.
Is there another one? Do I need to get another copy?
Yeah, was that both of them? Okay, so I would just like to say, this ends my work with you. Have a wonderful time living into your identity. And if people know how to get in touch with me if they want help. So you're welcome. Thank you.